So here's a great use of the VLOOKUP or vertical lookup function. Now the reason we're going to use the vertical lookup is because the table of data that we're trying to look up the information to transfer into our letter grade is completed vertically. So you can see, and it goes from lowest value to highest value. So that's ascending order, and the table must be done that way. Now there's a couple ways to do this. Number one, I have named the table. If I highlight the whole table, you can see that I've given that section of Excel a name called grades. So that area is named grades. What I'm going to do is simply use the VLOOKUP formula to look in the table and find the closest match to the student's grade, thus returning their letter grade. Now, granted, with this small of data, you could do it manually, but what if we had 1,000 students we wanted to do this for? It wouldn't be very efficient. That's where the VLOOKUP function can come into play. Now, what I'm going to do is go up on the Home tab to the Editing section. I'm going to use the down arrow and choose More Functions. Now, this is how I get here. You could go up to Formulas. I'm going to type in VLOOKUP, and this way I get the function dialog box. Now, I like using the function dialog box because it gives me the opportunity, I'll say OK here, to make sure that I get the data correct. So the lookup value, and if you need to, you can read right here as to what the lookup value and what we're looking for. The lookup value in my case is going to be the value in B2. So the table array, there's two ways to do this. Number one, I can type in the word grades, that's what I labeled that array, or I can simply highlight minus the title the section of Excel that contains that. Now, because I don't want that to iterate down, I've got to make it absolute. Okay? So I make it absolute by simply choosing, highlighting the data here and choosing the F4 key. And that makes it absolute with the dollar signs. At this point, I want to pick the column index. Notice it's in the table array from which the matching data should be returned. Well, this is column 1. It always has the value I'm looking for, so I must be going to want to return column 2. And if you notice as I do this, it says, well, if you're looking at column 2, based on what's in B2, 61.21, I'm going to return a D. And indeed, that is correct, right? Because 60 to 69.9 is going to be a D. It's not till we reach 70 or anything above 70 that we get a C. So I know that this is correct. I can audit based on this and then simply choose OK. At this point, all I have to do is copy that formula down and watch that it iterates. For example, if I double click on the last one, first of all, I see that it has 98.66. I'll double click. Indeed, it's using this value. It's using my table array, and it's returning the second. So remember that in doing this, the other thing that I can do is simply come into the function, and instead of having this absolute value, type in grades. And if you notice, it does the same thing. I've changed just this one. It says B16, looking for that value in the grades array and returning column 2. So two ways to do it. Both would be right. And this has been VLOOKUP.